2022. It's Fat Boy, and here are my NBA game predictions for January 21st of 2022. Tonight there's 11 games. I'll be going over these spreads and over-unders, which I got from FanDuel for the spreads, and then the over-unders are a mix of FanDuel and what I think the games will end up as. For the Lakers at the Magic, I'll be going with Orlando plus 5.5. The Lakers are in a little bit of a turmoil. A lot of drama on the Reddit for the Lakers, that's for sure. So I'm not too bullish on them, so I'm likely always going to bet against them right now until I see a swing towards the positive. Like, I'm sure LeBron's going to play fine this game. It's just the rest of the team around him. It's like, do they decide to show up or not? And as for the Magic, they have nothing to lose, so they just have to show up and play, and then that should keep them in the game most of the game. I will expect over 221 as the Lakers defense shouldn't really slow down the Magic. I think it'll be more likely that the Magic offense will slow down themselves than the Lakers defense. But I do expect over 221 as there's enough veterans on the Lakers that they can score against the Magic. And it should be a fairly close game throughout. For the Thunder at Charlotte, we go with Charlotte minus 9.5. I think the onslaught of Charlotte's offense will return this game and should be able to overpower the Thunder. I think this will probably be closer in the first half, but I think Charlotte should be able to pull away in the second half, or at least towards the end of the first quarter, second quarter. Like, especially if Charlotte gets hot. I think when Charlotte gets hot during the game, it's like they should maintain that momentum for the rest of the game. As I think once OKC gets down by 20 plus, it'll probably stay around there. And yeah, Charlotte should win this game. I'd be actually very surprised if Charlotte loses this game. I will expect over 222, as the only way that Charlotte is going to win this game is if they have a good quality offensive game. For the Clippers at Philadelphia, I'll be going with Philadelphia minus 7.5. Philadelphia's been playing very well, mostly on the back of Embiid, but who on the Clippers is going to slow down Embiid? I don't think Zubac is fast enough, and then the people who are fast enough to slow down Embiid aren't strong enough to slow down Embiid. So I think maybe not the same quality game as he had last game, as that was almost a record-breaking game. Looks like it's one for the books, but I expect a similar output where it's a very respectable game output by him. And Clippers are down Ben, so it should be an easy win for the Sixers, but the Clippers, they can have those games where they show up and just make it hard for the other team, but I think that shouldn't be one of those games. I will expect under 224.5, as I do expect the Sixers defense to slow down the Clippers, as they'll have a hard time scoring, and also these are a bit slower paced teams, so I will lean towards a lower scoring game, so below 224.5. For Portland at Boston, we're going with Boston minus 7.5. Portland has been struggling overall, and I think Boston should be able to take advantage over that. I do think Portland, they'll figure some things out with who they have playing for them right now, as they'll get progressively better, but it's like not great, as I think they'll turn into probably one of the worst teams in the league, like for sure like bottom 10 if they're not already there, but towards there, as I think Boston, between like Tatum and having Brown and just having most of their players there, that should be able to beat Portland no problem, and covering a 7.5 spread, that shouldn't be too hard either, as they are playing on their home field. I do expect Boston's defense to really hold down Portland, as I think Portland will have back-to-back weak offensive games, as I think Portland might get held under 100 again. If they do cross 100, it won't be that high, like no more than 104 by them. I think Boston should be able to score on Portland no problem, as their offense comes from the wings, and that's going to be hard for Nurkic to stop, who's probably one of the better defenders on Portland, so Boston shouldn't have a hard time with this game at all, and just expect a pretty poor game from Portland. For the Heat at Atlanta, we lean towards Miami +1. I think with Butler and fam on Miami. That should just be enough to beat Atlanta, as the Heat's coaching staff is better than Atlanta's. So I think that should be enough, especially if people are expecting this game to be close. I think towards the end, Miami should come out with the win. And if this game is a blowout, I think it'd go either way. But if this is a close game, I'm going to bet on Miami overall for that. I will expect over 218.5, as I think Atlanta, they'll get a hot streak or two in this game, and I think Miami's gonna be a little more consistent through the game, like not build a crazy lead and not fall too far behind, but they'll be the consistent factor because Butler's able to just keep his teams in line, not get like too overzealous, but then not get too down on themselves. While Atlanta, I don't have too much faith in them this season, but I think this will be a little higher scoring than usual for a Miami game, so over 218.5. For Toronto at Washington, I'll be going with Washington -2. I think after that close game by the Wizards against the Nets, where it was a 1-point game, I think the Wizards want to redeem themselves after that, so I really expect them to come out against the Raptors and really fight for that win, so I'll be leaning towards the Wizards for sure in this game. I will be going over 220.5, as I think the Wizards, will be focused. We focus on that defensive end, but I think they'll be focused on the offensive end, as that's where they've been playing better all season. I have more faith in the Wizards scoring a lot than like having a great defensive game. And then Toronto, I think should be able to take advantage of the Wizards' defense too, as the Washington defense isn't outstanding, but I think Toronto will be able to get their points still. But overall, I think the Wizards should come out and score a lot and win this game. For the Bulls at the Bucks, I'll be going with Chicago +9. I can't really bet on the Bucks to really blow out Chicago by 9 points. Caruso is back for the Bulls, so I think defensively the Bulls are going to be better overall. So I think that's just more defense on the wings to someone who's going to give their heart and soul into the game. So that's going to keep Chicago closer in this game for sure. Maybe not win, but not be blown out, as the Bucks are just inconsistent how they play. Like some games they'll just play amazing, just blow out the other team, but then they'll just next game lose to like one of the worst teams in the league. It's just hard to say what team you're going to get from the Bucks. So if you see like a spread more than like 10 points, like 9-10 points, it's just take the plus for the other team, especially for the Bucks. Then I'll be going under 227.5. As I said, Caruso, with him being back, I think the Bulls defense should be able to slow down the Bucks some, and then Bucks also has pretty good defense. But this over-under was from FanDuel, and I was surprised how high this was, so under 227.5. For Brooklyn at the Spurs, if you go with Brooklyn -3, with the craftiness of the coaching being involved in the play, I think Brooklyn, with their half man on the field of 5.5 to 5, I think -3, that's a very small margin. I think Brooklyn can really blow this game out of the water, even with Durant being out. But yeah, Brooklyn should win this game against the Spurs. Like, who's going to slow down the Brooklyn offense on the Spurs? I don't know. But that's why I really expect this to be a high-scoring game, as when the Nets score a lot of points, I always feel like the other team scores a lot of points too. So, and I really expect the Nets to score a lot of points. Like, I'm banking on that. So over 233.5, and I don't expect the Spurs offense to keep up with the Nets. So that's why I'm leaning with Brooklyn -3. For Detroit at the Jazz, we'll be going Detroit +13.5. I think Detroit has been playing pretty good of late. Well, besides like against the Warriors and the Suns, like where they are playing one of the top teams in the league, and once again, Jazz are one of those top teams in the league. But I think Jazz aren't as consistent as those two teams. So I think this time Detroit should stay within that 13.5. So that's why I'll be taking Detroit +13.5. I will be going over 218.5, as once again it's like the Jazz. Their defense is inconsistent, not as consistent as the Suns or the Warriors defense. So I think Detroit should be able to get their averages or at least above it. And then the Jazz, their offense has been a little shaky as of late, but They should see this as a bounce back game playing against one of the worst teams in the league, and they should be able to get their points overall. So this over 218.5 is a little low, as this one was from FanDuel. I'd maybe take like a 222 or 223 above that, because I think both these teams should be able to hit their open shots, make their threes, and have like a high-scoring game. For Memphis at Denver, we're going with Memphis +4. Memphis, they just have a bunch of guys. Like, I didn't even check to see who was out. I just know it doesn't matter who's out on Memphis. It's just they just are able to plug in players into their system. They just play hard, and it's just hard to beat them overall. Like, I can't really even remember the last time Memphis got blown out this season. So I think they should be able to stay within 4. And especially against the Nuggets, I think if Adams is in there, that should be enough to slow down Jokic somewhat, make him have to work. So that should be enough to slow down the Nuggets overall, and for Memphis to stay in the game. I will be going under 220, as I think the Memphis defense should slow down Denver, as that's going to be how Memphis stays in the game. And then overall, I think it will be close, but I think Memphis will be like leading most of the game. But it won't. I think overall, it's like Memphis shouldn't score more than like 110. And if I expect them to win, it's like that means Denver has to score less than 110, so under 220. For the Rockets at the Warriors, I'll be going with Houston +10. So the Warriors played last night, and it went to overtime. I'm sure they went to redeem themselves after losing to the Pacers in overtime. And I do expect them to win still, but I don't think they'll be able to cover that spread of +10, as Houston, they had the night off last night, so they're young and gun. They should be running up and down against the Warriors. So as long as like they take advantage of the fast break, really run fast and just give effort, that should keep them in the game overall. They may have their defensive lapses, which Golden State will take advantage of, but I think as long as Houston just gives some effort, they should stay within that +10. I will be going over 250.5, as Warriors played last night, so their defense might be a little slacking, might have some miscues, and I think Houston will be able to take advantage of that, get some easy baskets, so this should go over 215.5. Thank you for watching. Leave any of your thoughts in the comments for the games, and once again, thanks for watching.